What the hell is up, ladies and gentlemen? We got another cast over for you today. We are going to be looking at the Shambler versus ECalipso. This one was played in the very start of the last week of May, if you want to use that terminology. We are going to see what these two players get up to, because the last time we saw them, of course, Shambler will be playing as Zerg in this set. Shambler was able to surprise ECalipso and maybe surprise everybody at home by showing he still has what it takes to play as Zerg here. So let's get into it. We have ECalipso in the top right of Star-Shorn Sepulchre, a map by the Shambler, who is in the bottom right as the green Zerg. In fact, this is like dark green or something. Yeah. And this is just red. Yeah. Dude, I'm on fire with these colors. Let's see how many we can get right as we take a look at this game. Now, Shambler has been... I was told that in some of these games, we are going to see some very dirty strategies. And none of these games have very long replay, or very large replay sizes. That has been a little bit deceptive in the past, because what replay sizes actually are they take a quantity of they scale with in file size with the quantity of actions made. But, you know, if you have like a lower APM player, or you have a lot of typing maybe and stuff like that, yeah, you might not actually get the same level. At the same time, you could have a big file size, but it could just be a lot of people APM spamming, right? So the file size doesn't always tell you every single way to go. And yeah, indeed, ECalipso is Protoss. But I'm expecting some interesting actions here. It looks like ECalipso was headed towards the bottom right. Indeed, he will go that area. But the Shambler has guessed incorrectly. And if he's going to box scout, he will indeed be scouting ECalipso last. Now, with the speed at which this worker scout gets here, I would definitely think to end scout here. I would definitely think, okay, my opponent's probably in the top right then, because you just don't typically get to that level otherwise. Now it looks like the Shambler is going to go for the Larvosk start as the tickling begins. A little bit of a slappening here and there. Meanwhile, we obviously have these gateways kicking things off here, with ECalipso trying to go for the tried and true strategy. That is going to be a box scout out of the Shambler. We love to see those. And you know what? A pool right in his face, leaving nothing to the imagination right now. And for some reason, that just made me think of, what if you could pick up a Quaseth pool and slap a unit in the face with it? How much damage would that deal? He stole your Ridge! Dude, he stole your Ridge gas. Oh, is he going to steal the minerals too? No, it doesn't look like it. Not interested. We do have a Zealot moving across the map, followed up by another one. I feel like the pool will finish long enough or fast enough that this won't be too catastrophic, but let's see how good ECalipso's early micro is, right? Because if you scout Larvosk and then pool, I mean, you can see the Kagrant's already being made here. I think Shambler is already a little bit cautious about it. You could actually just start attacking the Kagrant for a guaranteed worker kill almost, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. No worker kills have happened just yet. Starting to pick off the Zealot, and second one is more than halfway across, right? 2 workers going down now. Shambler perhaps in shambles early on. 4 pairs of Zeths are being created. That's going to be 8 Zethra cores. They'll be more than enough to deal with this situation. And the Drill, for good measure, trying to see what he can do there. But hey, that Zealot is still hanging out there. Okay, now he's starting to take some hull damage. The other one just evacuating immediately. Yeah, okay, I can't believe ECalipso just gets away with that, all the shutdown mining time and 2 worker deaths, but apparently that was enough for him, and now Shambler will just think a little bit about what he's done. Even getting out with a worker means that actually ECalipso is up by 3 workers, right, if you think about it, because he killed his opponent's worker scout with the units back at home. Now, of course, the worker count is actually pretty even, and the Shambler is going to go ahead and droll up behind this. He doesn't really have the resources to do much of anything right now with the like an expansion, but he is going to go for a second Larvosk pretty fast. And that's one of those things where I wonder if maybe ECalipso could have targeted this Kagrant down just to slow that down a little bit. But he did go after the workers and did get some damage. It's just, if you can't fight in the drill zone, right, where you're in the hornet's nest, so to speak, you might want to just pop on back and attack the Kagrant. It's a pretty vulnerable target there. But he's got a pretty nice army looking up over here. Embassy for additional worker production coming up. We've got the Hierophant and the Dracodins and the Zealots and etc. Are indeed hanging. So yeah, I do think this is looking good for an attack. Now, there is no sustain with this composition. We don't have any Ecclesiasts here. So once they get through the, assuming they don't get through the Zeth armada, this could be a problem. But Shambler looks like he's just anticipating a follow-up attack. He kind of knows ECalipso's pretty aggro in that respect. So he is going to go ahead and preemptively throw down some anti-surface defense by the ramp. Vornath Pond is nearly complete, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. And now with the circuit starting, yeah, it's actually just going to be over and done with very, very fast. Zet's going for a surround. This is still very deadly. That Hierophant should be mincemeat with more and more Zets popping out as well, fully surrounding and eliminating the Zealots. No front line left to speak of for ECalipso, as he is indeed routed. A nice surround on that low HP Dracodon. And ECalipso is going to drop a Nexus in the face of this, despite seeing so many Zeths and getting deep enough to see the Vornath, so he knows that there's going to be a Vorv-infused follow-up. What is his defense? What is he going to be doing? He's getting a Witness. Oh, well, okay. Honestly, it might not be a bad idea to go for an Artisan here. Not because you want to harvest, but because it's an air unit and Zets can't attack up, but the Artisan can attack down. That's how desperate the situation seems to me. I don't think ECalipso is going to be able to hold this one. If he had like 2 Ecclesiasts back at home, that might have been a different story. But even that, I'm not sure. Okay, Matrix for a little bit of a makeshift wall. The attack comes in, but a big surround. There's just so many units. He's even going to get surrounded and routed on the way out. He does cancel one of the Matrixes, but not the other. And now the Nexus is going to be pressured down. He shouldn't cancel it until the exact moment he needs to, but he is actually going to do it very early on. That is going to stop him from being able to get another set of units out, and there's just more and more Zets coming. That's going to be a full surround. The workers on their way out, using that dead Ecclesiast to speed things up, but they're the only things that are left. ECalipso has no more military units, and I think the Shambler, with 25 workers in the bank, is about to run away with this one. Quasis for good measure. So many units out of here. The drilling on top of the gateways, that's not what you wanted in this situation, and that is going to be GG for the first time. The Shambler will take the match. Well, all right. That was that was an interesting conclusion. I think we're starting to see this double Larvosk sort of all-in play that Shambler was talking about there. ECalipso charging forward with no sustain meant that he was vulnerable to a surround. He wanted to get that timing down and thinking he may have had the advantage there. And you know what? To some degree, he had the tempo advantage for sure, right? The Zerg wasn't on the other side of the map. But you gotta be watchful of what happens when your opponent is able to just spam out the military, right? So that sort of remaxing can happen a lot faster for Zerg. Let's move on to game number 2 and see what's up next. Over on Paradise, we have the Shambler in the top right and ECalipso in the top left. Let's see what shenanigans our players can get up to now. You know, thinking about it, this is an interesting map set. And the fact that it's been happening on 4-spawn maps, our next map is also on Paradise, mind you. It's going to be interesting to see how they can push it to these early game bonanzas on the 4-spawn maps, right? Because I remember something that was mentioned a while back is that when you have the 4-spawn maps, or indeed the 3-spawn maps, because you have to scout your opponent, it significantly reduces how often you'll go for these kinds of early cheeses. I personally think that if the early cheeses are super good, then that's kind of like its own balancing issue that you should try to triage, but when it comes to the maps, they can definitely help you out with that, and so why not consider that? Looks like we'll have a gateway scout from ECalipso. Indeed, he is going to do the gateway first. I'm still interested in when we're going to see players actually be going for things like the lattice first as a more matter of course. Not that I think it's like bad to go gateway per se, but I think if you expect your opponent is going to go mass Zeth units like what happened in the previous match that we just watched on Star-Shorn Sepulchre, if you're expecting Shambler to do something like that, I think it does make some sense to go for a lattice. That gateway is a little bit off to the side. I wonder if that was intentional or not. We'll find out later on if it blocks the SimCity or whatever. ECalipso, obviously, knowing where his opponent is, judging by that scout, he'll be able to go straight across. Yep, that's an end scout if I've ever seen one. And indeed, it is another Larvosk opener here. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm expecting that the Shambler went for that Larvosk, the double Larvosk sort of, if you want to call it an all-in, I think you could still transition out of that. But he definitely needed to look to get some damage, right? I feel like he went for that. And that was sort of like a reactive-based play because he did take some damage from the early attack. And then as soon as he held the attack, he probably knew he was much more ahead because his opponent is only going to have 2 gates or 3 gates max and not going to be able to build a lot of units. It wasn't really a close fight in that situation. And maybe part of that is due to the fact that the natural on Star-Shorn is so open to ground-based attacks. And there was the Nexus went down before the defenses went down, which I think was a bit of a misread from ECalipso there. So definitely something where he wasn't expecting. He was maybe hoping, banking on the Shambler not attacking him. Ooh, look at this. We've got the Scribe pocketed off to the side. I guess he probably spotted the Kagra, but didn't get close enough to reveal himself, which is very interesting. I wasn't really paying too close attention to that, pathing into the base, but I mean, we've seen ECalipso do cheeky things before. I don't think he's going to do it now. Although this is this is a dastardly little spot here on this map. Like, when would you ever scout all the way down there, you know? The corollary doesn't quite exist to the same degree because this is one of those rotationally symmetric maps. This spawn is symmetric with this spawn, but not purely symmetric with this top left area, right? It's those diagonals are what gets you. So 4 Zeths are going to come on over here. They will be peppered down nicely. I'm not sure why Shambler allowed his Zeths to all die that way, but I mean, he is Zerg. It's just I think maybe he wanted to get up the ramp and see how the gateway count. That might have been the idea there. And, well, we're watching ECalipso. He is dropping a pylon here. Okay, well, I mean, there was no... He's putting a K-Grin immediately. It's almost like he knows that there could be like a air play or something. I don't know. Maybe that's actually going to turn into a circuit because he might be expecting a gateway move out. You might intuit, based on the unit count here, that it's probably a 3-gate. That's something that obviously the Shambler has played a lot of Protoss recently, so he should be aware of like how fast the army scales up. Maybe he's already thinking about that, but what is going to be done on here? That's the question. He's thinking about it. He's thinking about it. And oh my god, he's actually proxying a Stargate in his base. I mean, that's what ECalipso does. If he proxies something, it's a Stargate. It's always a Stargate. Very, very interesting. And you know what? Even though there's a pair of Vorvs that are going to pop over here and see what's up, they might actually cause a little bit of a ruckus. I mean, the Ecclesiasts can walk over there and slap them down. Getting a scout on the enemy base now is very important because you should... If he can full scout and see that there's no natural, right? That's like the main thing. Shambler kind of tunneling on trying to attack the workers right now, which is not ideal. Okay, he's going to get out and get a scout off. Because if you can scout and see what's going on over here, then you see, okay, you've only got the 3 gates. He hasn't gone to see if there's a nexus, right? So that's the main thing I would worry about, is that he won't know to even look for proxies or other shenanigans. Like, you know, why would my opponent only have these 3 gates and nothing over here either? Like, I've done a full base scout, but I haven't scouted his natural. Maybe he just assumes the natural is there, and that could be a fatal assumption. He's taking his own, thinking that maybe his opponent is indeed just being a little bit on the conservative side. We do have a bit of a ground-based move out here, 12 units. There's a lot of Zeths and Vorvs mixed in there. Zeths and Vorvs. The Nats are off to the side. And yeah, some of them are going to get tickled on the way in. That is indeed going to be a Vorvacor and a couple of Zeths going down. Oh, there you go. A couple of love taps on the end. So he's going to fall on back. Of course, it's a Gladius as well. Defenses being erected in a hurry. He's never really expanded the Kagra down there. Oh man, I'm nervous about like the Zeths auto-pathing down there, but I guess it's pretty unlikely. And you know, at this point, you know, ECalipso doesn't necessarily want to attack inward. He's adding a matrix next to his Warden in case of emergency, where there's a mass of Vorvs that come on in. And there's a lot of Zeths, a lot of Vorvs, you know. The Nathricors are small enough in count that there's really no chance of using them for anything other than a scout. This hatch is indeed going to finish. He hasn't turned those just yet. Zork is now coming for the Shambler. He has no anti-air. He built that into a circuit because he was expecting some sort of ridiculous push. He has 0 anti-air. And the spoke is held by ECalipso, so it's going to be a little bit of a hard fight up this ramp, thanks to the Ecclesiast's extra range. So this is going to happen now, and 2 Gladiuses are just going to walk into the enemy base, and because they already existed there. And again, these Ecclesiasts doing so much work to keep the units alive for a very, very long amount of time, and now the workers are indeed going to have to burrow, which, you know, it does reduce the amount of power here, but... The attacks onto the base are still something that you have to watch out for. You're only mining, you know, with what, a couple of units. Yeah, at this point, the all-in is in. The switch is flipped. The Shambler now moving across the map with everything he's got. These static defenses will definitely help hold. He's got 2 Zealots that'll be able to make it out there. This one, unfortunately, surrounded on all sides by beasts. And a 3rd Gladius joins the ranks. Yeah, I mean, I feel like Shambler is just going to end up getting absolutely slapped. You can pull the workers to help defend this area. Oh, a couple Vorvs onto the Warden is actually a pretty big deal for reducing its attack speed. It doesn't look like it's going to be enough, though. Indeed, it's keeping its shields thanks to the Matrix procs. Back over here, a horde of Vorverkors has tried to snipe down the Gladiuses, but they've only been successful at dealing with one of them. And now the Shambler is out of money. And all of his units in the main have died. He's got a couple more that he can maybe try to pump up, but there's just no hope for him to be able to do anything to that to those structures. Even if he kills the whole main, he still has to deal with the Gladiuses. And there's a 3rd one coming with a land effect queued up afterwards. He's desperately trying to evacuate. He never took his guys off of gas and onto minerals over here. Sinking his claws into the gateways is just a small little concession there. And he has to borrow yet again. Another Gladius off to this side, killing everything over here. Ah, Shambler. Oh, no. There's almost no way. I feel like ECalipso's got this like 6 ways from Sunday, adding more Wardens as well. Still has all the workers that he can use. The one Vorv, or the one Nath rather, obviously not going to be able to do too much there. The other one already destroyed, thanks to the bounces. Very silly. That's his version of GG, dude. He actually doesn't GG, of course. Well, I saw that one coming a mile away. Unfortunately, Shambler did not see that one coming. Let's see what happens in game number 3. Well, now that this set of games is tied up 1-1, we have ECalipso in the bottom left of Paradise and the Shambler in the top left. So we're back to vertical spawns, just like we were in the first game. Of course, this time we're on the left side of the map, and it's a different map because that was Star-Shorn. Which I should just do as a matter of course when I don't scout tech or expo. Well, I assume he's talking about not scouting proxies. Yeah, he didn't scout the expos, the problem with the Nath, so at least that would be my thought process. And maybe he ran in at some point when I wasn't looking with like one of his Vorvs. He did hang out like in this area with the Nath, so maybe he did that. But the Vorvs and stuff, they were kind of like in this general area, and they didn't really attack in until way later. So anyway, either way, Shambler, obviously, he can identify things that he could improve upon and do better. And so, yeah, I do think that that game turns back into a kind of normal game if... Well, I guess actually you're a little bit behind if your proxy gets scouted because you invested money into it, right? But yeah, if at the point where the Vorvs flew around, the Zets also discovered the proxy and destroyed it before it could get a single unit out. Because if it gets 1 unit out, then, okay, it's 1 Gladius, but it still could wreak havoc for a little bit, maybe force him on Bro. Maybe you can combine that with an attack a little bit earlier. I don't know. There's like, there's still play there. But if you kill it before it finishes a unit, you're definitely ahead. And it looks like Shambler is on top of his scouting this time around as well, so that's nice to see. Larvosk is a little bit late, keeping 27 gas in the bank for, all of your gas needs. Trying to think of anything that costs that much Vespine. I guess there is nothing. JK. Lattice first for ECalipso, though. We talked about that in the previous cast, or the previous game, rather. How isn't it cool that some Protosses are trying that one out? Indeed. Indeed, it is cool. Second Lattice now. Before the first unit comes out... ECalipso does this sometimes, or he'll build the second production structure before he starts the first unit. But okay, Idle on the way. I guess he might have not had enough Vespine at the time and still wanted to spend his Mineralis. Although I wonder if it sounds silly, but making a Golem as your first unit in that situation wouldn't be better, because at least then you'd have uptime on the Lattice. But that's probably a little bit more questionable because they cost the same, 200 minerals each. So. Pretty crazy, pretty crazy. ECalipso is going to go ahead and scout his opponent last, it looks like, but so too is the Shambler. So an even situation after the scouting. And since we're talking about scouting and talking about all of these maps and stuff, I gotta say, I am aware of there's a contingent of players out there who think that the intrinsic randomness of having your spawns be randomized without actually knowing where your enemy is, not revealing that information to the player beforehand, they have a feeling that is a little bit awkward, right? And this is going to be a big denial if he can get it. Yep, he will. Okay, so Shambler doesn't know there's a second Idol and doesn't know that there's a second Lattice. So that's already an interesting situation to be in, going for his second Larvosk. But yeah, the thing I was trying to get out from that Is that, and, ooh, ECalipso, I think, surely ECalipso's worker was sighted this time around. No way it's going to happen again. But I do think that it's actually, there's a trade-off if you decide to reveal where your opponent is, instead of just saying, hey, you got a scout to figure that out. It goes back to what I was talking about earlier when I was mentioning things like the second, like the whole idea that, oh, my one base all in, rush cheese strat has less, like there's a higher variance to whether or not that will work. It's more coin flippy and less actually useful, less advisable. I think that that's actually a good thing about the not knowing where your opponent is. Now, again, if we were to say, make it so that those kinds of strategies just were less powerful overall, I think we would lose something about the game, but it wouldn't be the most important thing to preserve about the game. Like if the game ever, devolved into like, okay, everybody just does like, one base all-ins the whole time, and that's it, that would be pretty bad. That would be sad, I would think. And I can't believe it, but he's doing another proxy, this time moving his golems and idols forward. There actually is pure quas. There's nothing here that will deal with the golems, really. Now, the idols are walking too far forward, so one of them goes down immediately. Where is the focus fire? He's actually just going to go after the back line while the golems just pepper him down. Nice focus fire here. A couple salvos were going to be enough to deal with these idols. Nice little stutter stepping, though. And remember, the idols are all great to target, but the golems are so deadly that, like, what are you actually going to do from this position? What is going to be proxied as well? That's another question. The idols are trying to get away, but now the cliff advantage is going to give it over. And there, the quasis are all the way outside the map. Rest of them are moving past this idol in the middle on this spoke. And just ignoring the golems. I mean, that's a tactic. You can do that. Oh, he's gonna warden creep. Okay, never mind. I thought maybe for a second here ECalipso could do something pretty crazy, pretty kooky. But I think the answer is probably not, if he's putting a warden over here. Unless he proxies the embassy and lifts the warden up. That's the only thing I can think of. I guess that could be kind of sick. You proxy the embassy, you build the envoy, you put a pylon down, and then you unload the warden with the, like you warp in the pylon with the scribe. And then you keep your other pylon back at the proxy location, right? Now, I really don't know if Shambler can do much over in this situation, but he is going to be allowed to get up the ramp, and ECalipso, not paying attention to his forces, doesn't move his idols back, so I tell a lie, absolutely can do something there. 2 idols still at large, doing their best to try to heckle this stuff. The warden is going to finish and get one shot off before being put down, but is this going to be enough quasis? There's a matrix over here as well, definitely going to help keep the worker count okay. Idol still trying to do its best to stay alive as it falls on back towards the Matrix and the worker line. The golem's no longer swinging because they're off to the side, and ECalipso is having a hard time focusing them down. Not the same for the Shambler, who's dealing with even more of the worker count and even more of the structures as well, tearing down that Matrix. A couple more workers will indeed go down. And look at this. It's Warden Proxy, but are you really going to be able to do anything about that? I feel like the answer to that is no, because now, yeah, there's all these quasis over here, and there's more coming. Shambler, ever the quas man, going to go ahead and, yeah, again, if this was just like a Stargate or something, that would have been way better. He did go mass quas, so the Gladiuses would have had to respect that, but I don't think that ECalipso can come back from this. There's so many quas. The Warden is going to get canceled. Now you've got to deal with that. Oh, instantaneous destruction, and the workers are all going to go down. Doesn't matter if you can't kill the golems and the idols if you just don't have any workers anyway, which is the situation right now for ECalipso as he falls down to 13. That is soon to be half of the worker count of Shambler. Yep, there it is. And, okay, he cleans that force up. Oh, okay, I mean, it's really unlikely that he can salvage this position, but he has gotten a pretty nice force, and he can do a wall of golems and stop the quas from being able to go up there, which will just forcibly extend the game. This scribe's still in the field, hasn't actually been cleared. That's interesting. Let's see what ECalipso wants to do. He's actually going down to the low ground, which I wouldn't necessarily advise. There's so many quasilisks, man. There's like 45 of them. This is a number that you can actually try to single out the golems, because there's not that many idols to deal splash damage. And now that golem trying to fall back and fall away, but now the focus fire can come onto the back line, which are not tasking backwards. Losing 2 idols in the blink of an eye. And now the golems can easily be overrun and overwhelmed. I feel like if he had just set up a phalanx of the, like a line there, a formation, then the golems would have been able to do a lot more. But as it currently stands, there's an unending tide of quasilisks. This reminds me of a game I played versus Zishi. Shout out Zishi, dude. It's been a hot minute. He hasn't been around in a long time. Maybe because of the game where I built only Quasilisks versus him. But it was like a 30-minute game, and he had to tech to tier 2.5 in order to defeat my mass Quas army. Yeah, very silly. The golems are going to charge forward to do some attacking, but let's be honest, this game is over. We've got the Shambler ahead. Dude, some of these games have been... Maybe all of these games have been incredibly hectic, and this one was just silly, though. This one was just silly, and I have nothing more to say on the matter. Game 4 coming up. Well, if you thought that one was silly, I'm sure we're going to be graced with even more silliness as we have ECalipso in the top left, the Shambler in the top right, and this is Fata Morgana, a map by Week 7, and it is, of course, one of the smallest maps in terms of distance by air, currently in the Empire class pool, and we keep it around for that reason. But when we've seen the absolute absurdity of games between these two players, where they are more than happy to just do silly, silly things, like Warden Creep, which never was going to work, I feel like, and obviously the Proxy Stargate. The shenanigans are heating up and intensifying, and I can't wait to see what happens. Can ECalipso tie us up in this silly series? It feels like to me that this is the kind of thing that people are looking for. These are the games that we're all hungering for, is the silly series are coming back, apparently. So, with this in mind, it looks like Shambler is going to go ahead and do the Larvosk opener yet again. We have ECalipso going back to the trusty gateway. Of course, the scouting is a lot more simplified on this map because it is a 2-spawn map. You can't spawn in the other corners or anything. I haven't seen any... I'm surprised I haven't seen any 7 pools or anything. It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny in that respect. Now attacking the pylon. Oh, no. And you guys know there is something like the pool into Larvosk is a little bit of a different opener than the Larvosk into pool. Looks like that worker was shoot away before the lattice went down, but I'm not 100% sure about that. What is this color? Is this tan or something? Oh, it's beaver. I've stopped. Oh, this is dark green. I stopped looking at the colors after talking a big game about winning the first time, so I can't even remember what they might have been. But yeah, beaver. Shout out beaver. I do think that it's kind of interesting to imagine, like, okay, you go pool into Larvosk, and that gives you faster minutes. Oh, okay. Of course, he's going to go ahead and tickle. Okay. Forces the cancel. I mean, it's not that much money lost. Vassal coming out now. Okay, we know the complexion of this game. I thought maybe we'd get, like, one normal macro game, but no, the answer is no, of course not. No way. No way in hell. Now, with the pool coming, it's really going to be telling what units get made first. If it's Zeth's, okay, it is Zeth's. He's going to be a little bit more on the aggressive side. But if these vassals get to a high enough number, then you're going to be forced to burrow again. Maybe if they're really high, then you can just snipe the Larvosk. And you can deny the double Larvosk all-in that it looks like Shambler is going for. He's going to once again go for the Vornath. And as well as, of course, that second... Larvosk, which he can afford in terms of gas. Yeah, this build doesn't seem that optimized yet, but I'm sure Shambler will work on it. He's got a lot of gas float. This is 75-75. This is only 25 minerals. So yeah, he's about to be able to afford both of them. But yeah, there's the Spraith, of course. He will end up losing a worker if he doesn't burrow it. So there you go. A little bit of a victory here. Oh, is he burrowing the right worker? No, he burrowed the wrong worker. Shambler, how could you do that? Ooh, even snipes it at the last second. Second Larvosk coming. Again, he can afford the Vornath anytime. I assume that's what he's going for. He might be going for Hydroth or something. A lot of Quas just got started. Now, the Quas are going to be uniquely bad versus Zealots. Again, you saw them do some stuff versus Idols, but they're not going to have the same quantity as before. And the Zealots, obviously, they can stand to the Zeths for a little bit. Still got a burrowed worker. Looks like he's figured it out there. That was kind of like killing a worker for a long period of time, except your opponent didn't have to spend money to rebuild it, only time. We'll see what's up next. I don't like the SimCity exactly either, because the larvae are spawning down here, and there's no room for them to move between the hatch and the larvasks, so they have to walk all the way around to start helping out with the resources. And oh my god, don't show me that mineral pathing. No way! Because the pond actually blocks that, I think. That's crazy. All right, second gate coming. No, thinking about an expansion, actually. Okay, maybe we will see a macro-ish game. I thought the vassals were kind of like belying that we were going to see a larger count of them, but he switched off into idols. So it looks like he's, well, he's long-distance mining from the geyser for now, but obviously at some point he's going to be thinking about taking that expansion. Still getting a lot of mileage out of using this vassal for scouting. He sees that the army is indeed still out there, unfortunately sacrificing it at the last moment. But he had to send a typing message, you know. You got to type to the typer. Satan, perhaps. And it looks like ECalipso will abandon expansion plans. I'm just going to go ahead and drop a warden on the cliff. This is going to be really difficult for the Quasilisks in particular to attack. I think you can attack it from here, but only by like a couple of units. And then other than that, I don't think you can attack it until you're... Maybe over here would work, I'm not sure. But obviously you're going to get shelled by the Dracodins the whole time. So this attack is not going to be able to bust. I mean, there's no... Even though he's got the Vornath, he doesn't have any Vorvs. Losing a bunch of units on the side. There's plenty of Zealots here. Great formation. Golem here to help replenish the Zealot shields as well. Yeah, this looks like a very commanding position for ECalipso. He might not be able to bust, really depending on the situation for Shambler, what he decides to do. But because he hasn't taken an expansion, because he didn't build a hatch, and because he doesn't have any gas to build an Ovolith, he actually can't hold his own ramp. So that's a very awkward position for him to be in, and so he is going to have to try to contain the Protoss, but he can't. He simply can't from this position. So we're seeing the weakness of the composition, probably, but not just the composition part where he's going mass quasi forever. It's also the fact that his layout, his build layout, has not afforded him any push towards the ramp to try to hold that. And yeah, I don't know, this seems almost elementary, but there are a lot of quasis. He has like dumped all of his available resources into that. 40 of them, in fact. We'll see how effective they can actually be. It feels like by the time they actually get on to the Dracodins and to the Idols, they're really not going to be that effective at focusing them down. There's just not very many of them. We saw this count drop from 40 to nothing. And there's still plenty of Zealots, still the Golem around, still 2 Idols, 3 Idols, in fact, and still the same number of Dracodins as well. So, yeah, 3 of those. The backline looking very good. The ramp unholdable, as we already mentioned. So, at this stage, I think Shambler is moments away from no GGing. Or maybe he will GG out of this one. I don't know. This isn't a silly victory in the same way. This is just a kind of straightforward victory in a weird kind of way, where he's made nothing but Quas. He made the Vornath but didn't use it. He didn't make any static defense, besides the Spraith, obviously. He is making some Vorvs now, but it's way too late. His Larvasks are going to get focused down, almost certainly, because the Zealots are holding all the Quas at bay. And it looks like ECalipso is going to force us to a Game 5. All 5 games actually mattering. GG, because I suck at basic build orders. Well, he had to fix that in. It wasn't GG because ECalipso played well and had like a good response or anything. It was GG because Shambler sucks. Well, you heard it here first, folks. Game 5 coming at you. So Game 5 is also on Fata Morgana. This time Shambler and ECalipso will swap positions with the former in the top left and the latter in the top right. A map of EEC7, by the way, since I forgot to say that earlier. Sip of water, and we'll see what ECalipso has. We have Shambler typing. How dare you? Also, he's typing, and he is 7-pooling. Oh no, this is actually a 6-pool. Okay, well, if the last game was the closest thing that we had to normal, this one will probably be the farthest from it. We'll see if he's successful in it. Because I don't know if you guys remember, but when Benno and Neblime went up against each other on this map, and they both did a 6 structure, right? It was 6 pool from Benno, and it was 6 gate. It was instant pylon into gate for Benno. So he's going to scout this, and I think as he gets to Shambler's like bridge area over here is when the Zeths are going to pop out. Assuming it is Zeths, of course. Now, this is an interesting question, right? Because Shambler's been playing a lot of Zerg lately. And it looks like he is considering a switch over. I think he's been playing more Zerg since then, so maybe he's actually made that decision, since I have not necessarily been able to keep up with all of the chat messages in our very active Discord server, so I may have missed a point where he talked about that publicly, but there you go. Now it is knowledge. Yeah, actually, this scout gets there super fast, and will even start to harass / reduce the the movement there. So what's the play here? What are we seeing out of this gateway, right? Because we're going to need to see a secondary pylon to power that gateway. We're going to need to see the workers to pull to... Okay, he's actually just going to pull the workers. I don't mind this. I do think that the first unit could have been something ranged, but he didn't have any Vespene for that, so he's going to go ahead and block it with the workers, which is a good move there. Nice drill onto the gas to get nice decollision. Remember, this is basically all that Shambler has. He doesn't have a lot of workers back here, so it's okay to end up losing some workers. That seemed a little bit wasteful, but that's okay. The Zealot now out here to ward them off, and yeah, ECalipso maintains a 2-worker advantage for now. Shambler not actually making anything despite having 300 minerals. I don't know if he's planning on doing something else. I don't know. It's down to the wire, and the pylon is not being sniped right now. So even though he's going to be tying the worker count up now a little bit, oh, even getting one better, he's not making any back at home. Holy slideshow, Batman. Apparently it might have been laggy or something. That might explain some of the silliness. Indeed, this pylon will end up going down. This is why I said you want a redundancy one. But you still have only... oh, there's another pair of Zets down here that Shambler should make use of. But looks like now he's going to do it. Da fuck, this lag. I agree. Even though it's totally fine on the replay, so y'all look silly. Now he's going to see if he can reduce the worker count even further. It looks like he might be able to. But again, these Zets are all that Shambler has, despite having so many minerals. He's been very, very overly focused on the micro. And that's kind of weird, because if you're saying it's lagging, it should give you even more power to do stuff like that. Oh, he just rage quit, okay. I guess the lag finished him off. But maybe he didn't feel like he did enough damage. I don't know. That one was a weird one. We'll chalk that up as a tie. I won't increment the score for anybody. But that was silly. I don't know why that game was even submitted if it was going to lag like that. But we needed the closer. We needed the conclusion. And I guess we'll just be blue-balled for a little bit longer until the next time these two play. Hopefully a longer game, and then we can say who won this best of 5. GG, ladies and gentlemen. And remember, silly series are back on the menu. So if you have any, feel free to send them over. Tomorrow, I think we'll probably go back to the original raison d'etre of these castovers and look at some hype matches again. But yeah, this one was very silly. Had some very funny things happen in it. GG's, and until next time.